Okay, let's see who's going to join us today for You Are What You Allow Masterclass. So I'm going to bring some people in. This might take a minute or so, but hello and thanks for joining. I do have you all muted as I'm bringing you in because we're recording this, and I'm going to send you a recording. You're here because you're already on my email list, so thank you very much. And you will receive this recording. I should be able to get it out to you tonight. So to preserve the integrity of the recording, I mute everyone upon joining. And we're just going to be audio here. It's already a morning where I've lost power. We're storming here where I am. Not too bad, but I've already lost power at my house this morning. So I'm doing audio to play it safe. So welcome to all who's joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Seeing some familiar names and faces here join our live talk. So thank you for taking the time out today to be here with us. The chat box is open. So whenever I do these masterclasses, I invite you to leave your comments, and you can leave questions throughout the talk, and you are most welcome to do that. And if I don't get to all of your questions, believe me, I will absolutely try. So just be patient with me. Let's see. All right. And the topic of today's call is You Are What You Allow, which can let the mind wander a bit, right? You are what you allow. We can all assign our own private meaning to that, yeah? I'm getting my sip of coffee here. You are what you allow. Now, we've all heard throughout our lives, we are products of our circumstances, right? We're products of our environment. I would argue that that is not true. That is not a complete picture of what's really going on. We are the results of how we create meaning from our environment. Or we are the result of how we create meaning from life's circumstances. It seems to be a bit more accurate, wouldn't you say? Because you can have, for example, two people who've endured the same, let's just say, level of adversity in their life. Maybe you have twins in a family who grew up with alcoholic parents in a tumultuous household, to say the least. One grew up with an incredible victim mentality and a coping mechanism that they've decided to keep for life, that everything happens to them, right? That life has singled them out for some level of punishment. Nothing will ever be okay. And the other twin could have adopted a mindset that has more to do with flow, more with understanding that, yes, life is full of adversity, but it is what you make it. And you can either use it as fuel to change your circumstances and be able to see that it's an opportunity to look for gifts in the garbage, as I often like to say, meaning lessons that we can take from that life circumstance and enrich ourselves, right? Create a deeper foundation for nourishment for ourselves in spite of it, correct? And so it's not a complete statement to say that we are the products of our circumstances. No, we are the result of how we create meaning from life's circumstances. And so what does that tell you? That it all comes down to our individual perception, right? That we have to understand the difference between content and context, in the sense that anything could be happening in your external environment. You could be triggered by any number of things based on your background, your upbringing, events that have happened to you throughout your life, etc. And that's the content. That's looking at the circumstances for just the raw representation of them. The context, however, is derived by you. You decide and carve that out for yourself. And we're doing this moment to moment, second by second, throughout our entire lives. Yeah. And so ultimately that creates a level of responsibility for us. How do you want to create meaning from life? How will you create meaning out of your life? What context will you give it? Yeah. Let's take what's happening in your life right now, for instance. I'm guessing maybe a few of you are here because maybe things aren't going so great. That you're here looking for maybe some answers, some solutions. That maybe you decided to come here today, carve out a precious hour or less, hopefully, out of your day to be here because you're really scratching your head about something right now. Maybe it feels like you're in some sort of consciousness loop that you can't get yourself out of. You can't extract enough meaning or enough of a lesson from something that's happening to be able to say, okay, marked, downloaded, complete, time to move on. Perhaps there's something like that going on. When I say you are what you allow, you could take this maybe from your level of thinking that life is just happening to you, right? And here you are, this innocent bystander. I wasn't doing anything, and this just happened. Oh my God. Fuck my life. Again. Holy crap. And you could be in that camp, right? Or you can be in a higher vantage point where there might be some level of diversity in your life right now, something you can't move past. Maybe it's a loop. Keep attracting the same kind of people in your life or the same kind of situation. Maybe it's a feast and famine type thing. You're like, when does this end? My God, why does this keep happening? From my vantage point, why do you allow it to keep happening? Now, that doesn't mean to say that we allow openly other people to have open season on us, although sometimes we do, and let anything come our way. I mean, let's hope for the sake of argument, we have some boundaries in place, right? We have some line in the sand where we're saying, I do not allow myself to be treated that way. And I don't allow these situations to happen to me anymore. Hopefully at this point in your life, you've created some sort of, emotional maturity for yourself and a line in the sand where you don't allow yourself to be a doormat and let yourself be a total victim of life circumstances and say, when something happens yet again that you allow, see, I told you so. That's pure, straight up victim mentality. Yeah. Or you can be in flow and understand, okay, this is happening. Okay. All right. I can see that this is happening. I accept it. Meaning you're able to be with what is and see it, recognize it, create awareness of it. That is a kind of acceptance. And you can never move on out of a consciousness loop of any kind without some acceptance. Now, that doesn't mean the same thing as allowance, allowing it to happen, allowing it to continue to happen. Acceptance simply means being with what is, not acceptance where you're tolerating it and you'll allow it to keep happening. It's just that acceptance involves a full awareness and a recognition of what is going on in the moment. Who are the players? What are the circumstances? What's the situation? What's the context? I'm talking about acceptance in those terms. Does that make sense? I'm not talking about a kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a resignation that this is just how it is. That's different. Because you can never move into a solution-based level of mind without accepting the circumstances as they are. That means, are you willing for just a moment, and this is hard for us as humans, to not assign value or judgment or meaning to it when you are looking at your present circumstances that, yeah, may suck, but can you just look at them for a moment and say, this is what's going on? This is who is involved. Isn't that curious that this person or this type of person is always involved? Isn't it curious that what precipitates this event is always the same thing? There's always a common denominator there. Isn't it curious and interesting that here I am in this state again, and how do I think about myself? How do I perceive myself when this happens? And I go to the dark side again, and I start beating myself up, thinking myself unworthy, thinking life is out to get me, God is out to get me, whatever. Isn't it interesting that this keeps happening? Talking about that level of acceptance. And that takes some emotional maturity to be curious and have a feeling of neutrality about what's happening. Yet, that is what acceptance is. And yet, we can only move into solution-based levels of mind through this type of acceptance. Are you with me? Let's have a little activity in the chat box, shall we? Does this make sense? The differentiation I'm making between acceptance and resignation or just allowance of something happening. Saying, this is just how it is. Look, life's fucking me over again. So predictable. Okay? That's the fuck my life, the victim mode, right? Marissa says yes. Okay, thank you for your comment. When you are able to move into acceptance, the sweet spot of being there, it allows you to enter a different vantage point, a different level of mind. The victim is always going to be aligned with your ego and is going to be aligned with all of the subconscious and unconscious wounding that maybe is coming to the surface, is in a process of coming to the surface, or has not yet been revealed to the surface level of your regular waking consciousness. But when we are able to look at things objectively, I like to call it the God's eye view of what's going on. That means we have a certain level of curiosity. And naturally, as human beings, we are curious. We are curious beings. So it's just a measure of practice to be able to be in that kind of neutrality where you can maintain some curiosity. What's really going on here? And then the next step is to drive that towards, why is this no longer something I wish to tolerate? Why am I no longer available for this? Where is this holding me back from greater levels of growth and fulfillment that I seem to be asking for but not getting? And asking those questions, again, curiosity. What's really going on here? Why am I really just no longer available for this? Where am I done with this type of interaction, this type of situation, this type of event happening in my life, okay? What you start to do is create something which is what I call a line in the sand for ourselves. This is where we start to create better boundaries. And I know we often talk about boundaries in terms of an agreement we enter into with other people, okay? And we might often think of boundaries, especially in that context, that we are keeping other people out, yeah? But when you really dig deeper, what you're trying to do is keep the good energy that you've cultivated, the good practices, the good habits, the good feeling thoughts that you've cultivated for yourself over time. You're trying to keep those in. Okay. So it's not always about keeping other people out, but the ultimate boundaries that are being kept and safeguarded or not are the ones that you are making with yourself. So take, for instance, the moment where you have that realization and you start asking questions. Why am I no longer available for this? Okay. This is where you start seeing the divide within that you have created for yourself. This is where we ultimately start taking responsibility. And the easiest way to start looking at that is, where am I saying to myself, I want this kind of life. I want this kind of experience with life. I want these kind of situations to unfold for me, or outcomes, etc. in life. But how I'm acting and showing up is at odds with that, and creating then inner conflict in my own inner world, in my inner reality. So a good example, you are trying to do some deep inner work on yourself and maybe do some mindset shifting. Okay. You're trying to work on creating more of a prosperity mindset. You're trying to cultivate and craft better feeling thoughts, meaning thoughts that affirm who you are, that validate and confirm your gifts to yourself. You recognize that you have certain skills, abilities, gifts, talents. And part of building your prosperity mindset is honoring that. I don't know about you guys, but I talk to myself every day. I tell myself how proud I am, that what I've created is very unique, that I'm the only family member, as far as I know of in my history, who's an entrepreneur, and a spiritual one at that. A lot of my family members look at me like I have 3 heads, which is fine. I've always been the outlier. I've always been the black sheep of the family. I'm the legacy breaker of the family. I'm fine with that. I could never be anything else. But I appreciate myself and I honor myself for the bravery and the courage that it has taken time and time again for me to speak out about the things that I care about the things that are in my heart, the things that are operating at the core truth of me. And I congratulate myself on. That's one of my skills. Those are some of my talents and abilities. And I'm constantly telling myself, Kathryn, I love you. Kathryn, I'm proud of you. This is not something I've done forever. This is something, you might be surprised to know, is something that I've included in my life only in the last 1.5 years. And it has changed my life. Yes, sometimes it involves mirror work. Sometimes it's just I'm out in the woods walking my dog and I talk to myself. I talk to myself and tell myself how proud I am. Because you know why? I never got it from anyone else. And there's like a window of opportunity there where if we didn't get it from, let's just say, our parents, our caregivers, those who fostered our care in our upbringing, once that window of opportunity passes, doesn't matter what they say when you're adult, because it won't sink in on the same level. Whether it was that they love you, they're proud of you, they see and value and honor your accomplishments, it just won't sink in. So you have to do it for yourself. And so you can either be in that place where you're like, you know what? These are my boundaries. I'm trying to create this time for myself so that I can cultivate this prosperity mindset. These are the things I'm doing. I'm telling myself I'm really good at this and I'm really good at that. And then your time on your meditation mat or whatever is over. Or you're listening to your audio meditation, your hypnotherapy track, and that's over, and you put your headphones down and you go out of your room, your sanctuary, and you go out into the outer world. And someone says some criticizing comment to you. Like, oh, doing your affirmations again? Oh, how cute is that? Wow. Well, good luck with that. Sure got a lot of work to do. And then you will take that in. You are what you allow. Does that make sense? I'm going to read some of the comments here before I go on. I think I'm at the point of moving away from victimhood, more an observer. It's a process. It's a process. And congratulate yourself for that, Marianne. But when I'm noticing a pattern with those around me of not feeling listened to and assumptions being made about me, I'm kind of circling the wagon to understand what I'm doing to attract this. Okay. Now, what did I just say? What did I close with there? Just because it's being said about you, around you, in your periphery, do you have to let it in? Remember what I said about boundaries. The ultimate boundaries we are keeping or not are where we're drawing that inner line in the sand for ourselves, saying, I no longer take this shit in. It's garbage. It does not nourish me. It doesn't feed me. It is not nourishment or food for growth for where I'm going. Therefore, I'm not available for it. Therefore, I do not take it in. Thank you for your feedback. I don't take that in. I say that to people. It's not something that happened overnight, but I'm naturally fairly brave and a fairly outspoken person. So I don't mind showing my bitch face to someone and letting someone know they're in dangerous territory if they keep going. I don't mind calling people out when they're saying unkind things. I try not to be sarcastic, but that my default. It's a natural love language for me, sarcasm. So I try not to be that because that actually is a lower vibration way of communication. Instead, I say, thank you for your feedback. I don't find it constructive, but thanks for your feedback. Or I use that line from Willy Wonka, and it cracks me up to use it. I don't know if you'll ever remember this, but I'm a child of the 70s and early 80s, and I'm talking about the Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder in it. And there's a scene in the movie where one of the kids are talking to him in the chocolate factory, and in order to ignore them or kind of cancel out their little arrogant kid comment, he says, speak a little louder next time. I'm deaf in this ear. And I've said that a few times, and it cracks me up. It's more for my edification than anything else. But it will shut people down. Or when there's a criticizing comment that comes in, you can say, you know what? Can you repeat that, please? Because oftentimes people are coming not from a level of criticizing you, but what you're doing, how you're acting, maybe taking charge of your life is somehow threatening to that person who's looking at your life from their vantage point. And it threatens them because they're not willing to do that level of work on themselves. And their comment, no matter how hurtful, is actually coming from the hurt that they feel in themselves, right? And where it comes off as maybe someone bullying you or being unkind to you, think about what their inner reality is like and their inner critic sounds like in their head about themselves. Yeah? Yes, I'm my own cheerleader. I'm finally getting that, Marissa says. As my boundaries get better, I get more resistance from others. Yes, and you will, based on what I just said. And that is why. Because people will see what you're doing in your life, and because of their own inner critic, they will feel that. And again, context is everything. They will feel that that's somehow not available for them because that inner critic voice in their head is the strongest voice in their head, in their reality. And so then what you're doing will be perceived as a threat to them. Does that make sense? And so I remind myself of that often, and it helps me to move back into being a compassionate witness of other people's journey. I wouldn't be a very good coach or mentor if that wasn't the case, right? You mean not everyone talks to themselves, right, Kathryn? I talk to myself all the time. I call it my inner meeting with my spirit team. I'm at a point where I'm better about not taking it in, but need to respond more promptly when things happen. And when you do that, that is your power, Marianne. Because what do we do when we take things in? We tend to chew on it, right? We sit with it for a long time. We ruminate on it. We have it go over and over and over again. So someone's off the cuff comment, which is really commentary on their own lives, we take it in and then we make it our problem. It was really never our problem. It's not about us. Do you see? So when we address it right off the bat, even if it's, feel free to use some of the examples that I use to deflect that. And whatever your best mode of deflection might be, so that you don't take it in, please use that. I mean, I try to do it in a way where it's funny for me, but I'm never unkind, And I also, I don't use it as a forum to try to coach someone out of it. I only coach people who ask me for their help. I don't go around coaching people who are not soliciting my advice or help or mentorship, yeah? So even though I may know exactly what's going on, and I'm very good at reading people, I'm very intuitive, it's not my business. And, you can only help people who want to help themselves. Kathryn says, just had that conversation the other day. I feel like I'm a walking trigger for others. And you might be. And depending on the context, it's all about context, ladies and gentlemen. The context of that, whether you choose to be in the victim, which is the fuck my life mode, here we go again, or the flow, what's really going on here? That compassionate witness, that higher God's eye view, objective view of what's happening. That's the flow mode. So we're either in fuck my life or flow. And in the flow mode, in that context, you can say, I hope that person finds the answers they're looking for. That's a form of deflection, but in a good way. Because you're wishing no ill will on that person. You're actually putting a ripple of light out to the universe saying, you know what, whatever help is available for this individual, I hope they find it. That's generous, right? That's beautiful. That comes from the heart, not the head. Okay? So when we take that in, then their problem, which is anyone's criticism of you, is their problem, not yours. Given their context, they see you as a threat. Are you really walking around being a threat to people? No. And anywhere someone perceives you because of what you're doing in your life to better yourself as a trigger somehow, is that your problem? You are what you allow. And you can take it in or don't. It's up to you. There's really no judgment. There's no judgment. You can take it in and allow that energy to take up valuable energetic real estate within you and suck up that fuel and that energy that you're actually using towards driving your life forward into areas of greater growth, fulfillment, and potential. You can do that. You can certainly allow that fuel, that energy to be siphoned off. But understand this, it goes nowhere. And it's exhausting, isn't it? It's exhausting. And as women, we are natural caregivers. We're used to, and we're biologically predetermined to be nurturing. But what are we really nurturing? Other people's energy that comes from an unwholesome place and from their own fears, their own not enoughness. When you give more energy to that, that's what you're nurturing. You're nurturing that person's ability to stay in critic mode. So when you have an opportunity to, yes, diplomatically and compassionately deflect that criticism, you're not taking it in. You are then in alignment with the line in the sand. The ultimate boundary you are creating is the one you create with yourself. It's saying, I want all these things. I want all these outcomes. I want my life to move in this direction. So me not taking this in, I'm staying true to my own values. I'm staying true to the meaning I want to build in my life, the values, the principles I hold. I'm staying in alignment with this movement, my true north, if you want to call it that, meaning living a life that's aligned with your purpose, your joy, your bliss, that involves you using the best of your talents, your abilities. This is what really allows us to be in our fullness. It's holding this boundary with ourselves. What you let in, that's the ultimate boundary. What you safeguard, because you've worked so hard, even if you feel like you're in a consciousness loop right now, and maybe you're in a 5 steps forward, 10 steps back kind of mode. If you're in the flow mode versus the fuck my life mode, that means you're willing to look at, well, what have I cultivated? What have I actually created for myself so far? Where have I figured out how to stand on my own 2 feet, even in moments where I was facing incredible challenging moments, incredible adversity? I figured out how to do this, and I stood up for myself. In those moments, it's about a redirect of your attention. What is going right, not what is going wrong. And we are fighting against a neurological and biological kind of predisposition called a cognitive negative bias, which really comes from ego and comes from a place where we're constantly scanning for threats. We're scanning risks in our environment. And so we're so used to this that we're so used to looking at all the things going wrong versus all the things that are going right. So that's a moment to do some self-talk and say, you know what? Okay, this is happening, but here's all when we take that inventory of all the things that are going right, it stiffens your resolve in that moment to stand up for yourself yet again. Create that line in the sand and saying, you know what? I'm not available for that. And here's the real payoff. The more that you do that and you create that line in the sand with yourself, in your inner reality, with your inner boundary you're having with yourself, what you will no longer allow, what you will no longer tolerate, what you will no longer take in, you stop attracting that resonance of situations, of people. You have vibrationally given yourself a boost out of that spectrum or bandwidth of energy. So you become kind of, in a way, invisible to that former resonance that would attract all those people over and over again. But when we waver and we go back and we let it in and we chew on yet another criticism that comes from someone who's in a dark place themselves, and we take it in as our own, you're sending a mixed message, not just to the universe, but to your entire body, to your mind, your body, your nervous system, your neural pathways. Your neural pathways are going, wait, we were creating all these new superhighways of thought in the brain. We were doing so good. What happened? Stay true to yourself. Marissa says, yes, absolutely. I talk to myself every day, all day, constant inner dialogue happening. These days, a much kinder voice too. Yes, and it does get kinder and kinder. And here's the thing, when we get used to that voice, because it's a little difficult at first, and I'll talk about that in a second. I want to read through the comments. It's a little difficult at first, but once we get used to it, we get used to that inner talk that is so loving, we don't want to live without it. You know, it becomes something that is so self-nourishing, so self-supportive. And I'm going to go further in that too. When in flow mode, I feel less FOMO, right? Good point, Shantae. Yes, I've been praying for the best, highest outcome for this person. However, no matter what, they are no longer my excuse to not face myself. I was not helping them. You can only help people who want to be helped. Period. End of story. To the contrary, I legit felt like I had been sucked into darkness. And yes, I accept that I did allow everything to happen. Not to me, but for me. That's a great way to frame that, Marissa. Well done. This is all very new. I feel like I'm on the right path, even though I don't know with my brain exactly what I'm going to do quite yet. That's okay. You're here today. That's a move forward. That's a move in alignment with where you want to go. That's true for all of you who showed up today, whether you're, going to listen to the replay later, and I'm talking to the future yous who are going to listen to this, or those of you who are here now, you made a choice that's in alignment with growth, right? Saw the title of this masterclass. You know what I do. You know I'm not going to pull any punches or throw any softballs at you, right? I tend to speak truth to power. So you made a choice that maybe you're going to hear some hard truths today, but that's okay. Because maybe you needed that little kick in the pants. We all do. Lovingly, a loving kick in the pants. That will always come from me with a loving kick in the pants. I call it the shakabuku, which is a spiritual swift kick to the head. Like, yes, I needed to remind myself of that. Thank you. But loving in the sense that it allows us to recenter, refortify our resolve, and then move back into alignment. Yeah. So your line in the sand with yourself, those boundaries are, what's already in there. What's already in there, what you've already cultivated in those moments where you might make yourself feel like you're open season for someone's criticism. Remind yourself of how far you've come. Take a quick inventory, and you can do this for yourself. After this call, keep yourself on track with this energy. Make a quick inventory of 3 things that you've done for yourself that have contributed to and added to your growth over, let's just say, the last 3 to 6 months. So let's have it be something that's recent in your memory that you've done, where you've made strides forward, where you are congratulating, honoring, and valuing yourself for staying true to yourself. Have these 3 things at the ready so that when that criticism comes in, that shitty comment that you're not available for, you didn't solicit, didn't ask for, but came in anyway, you can have that inventory of those 3 things at top of mind. So you can be like, well, I know that's not true. Shuts down the inner critic right away. Creates a resonance within you that does not allow, literally is not a vibration that allows that comment or situation, or how you're creating meaning, or how you had created meaning from that situation before. You don't bring that in either, which is just rolling in a memory of you, really, right? The meaning or the context you give certain situations, that was an old you. That was an old version of you. And here's the thing. Even you 10 minutes ago is the old version of you. Whatever you decide to do now is all that matters, because now is all there is. 10 minutes ago, you love her, honor her. She helped get you here. But that doesn't necessarily provide a good reflection of who you are right now. Before you got on this call, you might have felt like a very different person. Maybe hearing these words, taking them in, because they align with your truth, makes you feel like more of who you truly are. And you feel changed because of it. And so here you are now, feeling different than you did 20 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago. Yeah. Who you are now is all that matters. Everything else you're rolling in, even any context or meaning that you give to things that might seem like familiar situations, understand you are allowing that. It's just a memory of you. It's really, if you want to talk about it this way, it's just an echo. And you can decide to align with that as your truth, or you can say, well, if I'm in flow instead of fuck my life mode, I'm not going to bring that memory or echo of me in. It doesn't resonate with where I am now, because that's all that matters, is where I am now. Yes? I do feel like more of who I am as I take in these words. Yes. Yes. So the self-talk, I just wanted to say something on that real quick. If this is new to you, some of your things might sound like, when I'm in the shower is the typical time for me to do it, because I feel like that's my own little private sanctuary within my sanctuary, which is my home, which I'm here. I have my home office. I work from home. I'm alone most of the day. But when I'm in the shower, I don't know, it feels like a special sanctuary. And also I have a big rock wall shower, so I feel like I have the earth element there. I have the water. I have the light, so that's my fire element. I have the air, I'm breathing air, and then I'm speaking to myself. I'm using the instrument of air to create something nourishing for me. So it's like, here I have all the sacred elements around me, and it feels very nourishing, feels very supportive for me. And that's where I do some of my self-talk. Okay. In between getting shampoo in my mouth. But All that aside, I still do it there. It just feels right for me. I don't know why. But find your place where it feels right for you to do your self-talk. When you have private time to yourself. Also walking in the woods, and I'm walking with my dog every day. I'll just say things like, Kathryn, I'm so proud of you. Kathryn, I love you so much. I love you so much. I'm sorry you didn't have anyone tell you that enough, but I'm telling you now. I'm here for you now. And that was hard for me to say to myself, for myself, by myself for a really long time. I had to really habituate myself to that. And that was surprising to me, even given the work that I do, and that I've been doing this for over 2 decades now. But I did, and I kept doing it until it felt more and more comfortable. And the only reason why it felt uncomfortable is because I never heard it when I was growing up. I don't remember anyone once telling me that they were proud of me. Now, I'm not trying to deflect responsibility or anything like that, or say that my parents were shitty parents. They were dealing with their own host of problems. And, we're in this generation, I definitely identify as Gen X, where we broke a lot of those legacies that the baby boomers kind of presented to us and said, here, now this is your problem. We were like, no, it's not. We're going to break those legacies. We're going to break those old rules and programs and structures. And a lot of the Gen X generation has done that. You're welcome, millennials and Gen Z, because we're just like, this doesn't work. And so, growing up with that kind of lack of emotional fortitude, and being able to, really work through our emotions, understand what's going on. We had to figure that shit out on our own. Because I definitely grew up in a generation where we just don't talk about our feelings. And we didn't make that differentiation or that distinction, that, not talking about what's really going on or not talking about our feelings was creating all kinds of dis-ease in the body and in the mind, and stress and problems that could manifest as chronic symptoms, etc. We figured this stuff out only in the last 30, 40 years. Yeah. So I'm not blaming anybody, but I am taking responsibility for it where I'm most responsible. That's in my own reality. That's the only place I can be truly responsible and accountable, is in my own reality, with my own self. So it might be hard, but understand that we are what we allow. You are what you allow. Your line in the sand with yourself. Boundaries with what's already in there, what you've already cultivated. It's not about just keeping stuff out, just to summarize here, but also moving stuff out. So another way of, looking at you are what you allow is the boundaries about, well, this stuff has been in here for a long time. And you can call it any number of things. You can call it stinking thinking, old thoughts about yourself, which, as we've learned, as we established, they're just echoes, really, they're memories. And because they're so habituated for you, it's like you're attracting these old thoughts. You're not thinking them anew. These are thoughts that you've had taking up real estate within you for a very long time. And so when they come up again, you're just in a resonance where you're attracting those thoughts. You're not necessarily thinking these new thoughts. It's just a habit of you. So the ultimate boundaries, and I call it gatekeeping, is where are you gatekeeping, meaning you won't let this stuff move out. That you won't see that some of the stuff that you've generated as thoughts, feeling thoughts within you, that came from that inner critic, they didn't come from the spiritual truth of you, the higher God self truth of you. They came at a time where maybe you experienced a challenge, a triggering event. Maybe you didn't respond in the best way that you could have. But guess what? You didn't have the information about that situation that you do now. You didn't have a level of emotional maturity at that moment that you do now. You didn't have all the knowledge and experience and wisdom of a life lived that you have now that you had then. So of course you responded differently. Of course you responded from a place of having less information and less of, a picture of all the pieces in play. Can you let yourself off the hook for it now and let it go? Let it go. It's taking up energy within you that is causing you to create these kind of echoes of self, these memories of you, dragging it into your present and thwarting all of your best laid efforts and plans to create different outcomes in your life. It's creating a situation inside where you have fertile ground to be at war with yourself. How long are you going to let that continue to happen? Let it go. And you're probably like, Kathryn, easier said than done. It is easy. It is easy when you look at things from the way I'm laying them out here. What am I allowing? I'm allowing echoes and memories of me to run my life. Okay. Okay. Why am I allowing echoes and memories of me to run my life? Let that curiosity piece come in. Why are you? And it may be legit that there is a reason for it. If you think about it this way, you might be getting something out of it by allowing the echoes and the memories of you run your life, where you are in that feast or famine, 5 steps ahead, 10 steps back kind of way of being. Because the payoff and what you might be getting out of it is, well, that means that if I keep holding on to these thoughts, I get to kind of keep them. They're, maybe not forefront, top of mind all the time, but I'm going to keep them. I'm going to hold on to them, because when I do venture out into a place of growth and I do get courageous and brave and do something new, get out of my comfort zone, and it doesn't work out, that I quote unquote fail, there is no failure, I'll talk about that in a second, that I quote unquote fail, then I get to go back and use those echoes, those memories, those stinking thinking thoughts and feelings that I have about myself and say, see, I told you so. We can't do this. Is it that? And just be honest with yourself here. I had to be honest with myself. That's why I held on to some of my old thoughts, which really, again, echoes, memories of you. They do not represent the truth of you. They represent a moment in time where you thought that was true about you, where you took it in as truth because you didn't know any better, because you didn't have the fullness of seeing all the moving parts at play, because you didn't have the fullness of all the experience, all of life's wisdom that you do have now. So why are you holding on to something that was created for you, by you? Take responsibility for that. You created a thought about yourself, a feeling about yourself. You did that. You allowed that. Why are you still allowing it to dictate your reality? Could it be that you're getting something out of it that, well, I get to fall back on that when I fail at life and say, see, I told you so. Guess what mode you're in? Fuck my life. Victim mode. Do you see the pattern? Thinking of it as gatekeeping has been a game changer. It is. You are the ultimate gatekeeper for everything you allow. What you allow to stay within your reality as echoes and memories, as I've just illuminated. What you allow yourself to take in, which is really OPP, other people's problems. Other people's criticism is reflective of other people's problems. If you trigger them, how is that your responsibility? They're not taking responsibility for their feelings. And they're not taking responsibility for the meaning that they're creating from their environment. I see the pattern. Does this make sense? Is this an aha moment for anyone? And let's be honest here, because we all do this. I will fully raise my hand and cop to this. I have done this many times. And when I saw that pattern, I was like, okay. So if I get rid of those feelings as like, it's like a little life vest where I can just crawl back into my hole and be my victim mode. I don't want to play that role anymore. I don't want to be that person. I am done. That is boring. Snore. boring. I know exactly what happens there. And I know that is exactly what keeps me from being courageous and moving into further levels of growth that I actually say and I'm paying lip service to, but not really following up with in my inner reality because I'm willing to hold on to that old shit. Creating a war with yourself. You are creating and allowing that inner conflict to exist right inside your reality, in your inner world. Yeah. So how do you begin to move out of this? Okay. One of the things that I really like to illuminate when I'm working with my clients is that, and this is something that we're working on in our VIP for Phoenix Path right now, is that there are no imperfect moments. The perfect now. If you're able to move out of the fuck my life mode, even just a little bit based on today's conversation, that victim mode where you're constantly going back to the ego, the inner critic, the inner judge that is telling you to look at all the things that are going wrong instead of all the things that are going right, instead of paying attention to that inventory that I hope you will go and create for yourself. Follow up on this call. Don't just have it be, oh, that was interesting, really cool, and then just go back to the same old shit. Do that one thing where you create that inventory of those 3 things that you've created for yourself, done for yourself over the last 3 to 6 months, that when you're in that mode where you face the adversity of life, and no matter what mode you're in, life will still have adversity. Life will still have challenges. That's what makes life an adventure. That's what makes life fun. It would be really boring if there weren't opportunities for growth everywhere all the time. But how you're framing it, the kind of context you're giving it, the kind of meaning you're assigning to it, always what you allow, always take responsibility, but make that inventory. I could let someone's criticism in. I could allow that to take over my life and my inner reality right now. I could allow this adverse circumstance or situation to create a certain meaning that the memory of me will assign, right? And I'll just let that part of me take over without thinking new critical thought about the situation at hand from a new vantage point, which is flow. But instead, I'm going to take those 3 things that are inventory or more that are at the ready, that are top of mind in those situations. Like, no, I know that's not true because look what I've done. Look what I've created. It creates a redirect in your energy. And we're so habituated to going to the negative. This is a pattern interrupt. So have that inventory. Do that for yourself. Show yourself how much you value yourself by having these things top of mind, ready to go whenever someone criticizes you, whenever you face life's adversity, the adventure of life, I call it. Because that's the flow version of me talking, sees it as the adventure of life, not the adversity of life. So I have those things at the ready. No, I see what you're trying to do there. Nope. I know this isn't true. Because look what I did last month. Look what I just created last week. Look at what I did for myself 2 days ago. See what you try to do. Nope, not available, not allowing it. Right? So we're tempted in those moments when we're in the vantage point and we're giving meaning to a moment, saying, this is adversity, this is challenging, I have an issue here, I'm being triggered, this is re-traumatizing me. Okay. There's nothing imperfect about it. There are no imperfect moments. That's a perception based in lack. Think about it. Well, everything's not going my way and I'm not happy. So this is an imperfect moment. That's a correlation you're making because you are in a frame of mind that is aligned with lack. That is a perception based in lack. What if instead of seeing this moment that crops up, that's a moment of adversity, a triggering person, a triggering event, a triggering situation, this is not an imperfect moment. It's actually perfect. It's actually perfect. before, the fuck my life version of me would say, yeah, see, this is just showing me again, I'm not there yet where I want to be. So I'm incomplete. That's a perception based in lack. That's a fuck my life mentality. That's the inner judge, inner critic taking over, riding high on that horse of shame and guilt. Once again, there are no imperfect moments. And here's why. Because in that moment, it's an opportunity to showcase who you truly are. That is a perfect moment because it is the place where you get to see where there is an opportunity for growth into greater potential of you, or an opportunity to just go back to that echo or memory of you. In that way, there is no adversity. In that way, there are no challenges, really. Rather, invitations. What will you choose? What will you allow in this moment? Will you allow yourself, because it is an allowance, will you allow yourself to go back to that memory, that echo of you that would have responded this way again? And you can expect to be in the same consciousness loop. Expect the same outcomes. It's predictable. Or can you turn that maybe previously perceived imperfect moment into the perfect moment, because this is an opportunity to choose differently. The perfect now. To align with your true north, meaning the purpose you feel. What is the purpose that you feel in this life? And the purpose that you feel in this life, true purpose that's aligned with the higher spiritual truth of you, is always aligned with someone else in the equation. That you're being you, you are nourishing you, you are supporting you, and you are ultimately what you allow. That is showing you you are the ultimate gatekeeper of what you allow to nourish and support you, or you don't. That includes all the good things coming in too. You're the ultimate gatekeeper. Because there can be things that you're still allowing in your inner reality, stinking thinking, old thoughts that represent, again, a memory, an echo of you that you're willing to hold on to, because in those moments where you face that challenge and adversity and you rise up and have the opportunity to rise up in spite of it, and it doesn't work out like you like, then you get to fall back on those things and say, see, I told you so. So that's why we keep those things. That's why we keep those thoughts. We keep those feelings, those identities of self intact, so that we can cocoon ourselves and cushion ourselves against the discomfort of growth. It's a trick of the mind. It's an illusion you create for yourself because it doesn't actually work. It just digs you deeper into your hole. How do I know this? Experience. Not just with clients, with myself. Okay? There are no imperfect moments. Only perfect ones. There is no adversity. Only opportunities. Only invitations to say, who do I really want to be here? This lip service that I'm paying to these outcomes that I want to have in my life, am I going to take an action right now? Speak truth to power that is in alignment with that? Or I'm going to choose the old me? And so even in those moments where things are coming in that are very nourishing and nurturing, we get some great news. We catch a break. Do you fully allow that in? Meaning, you are the ultimate gatekeeper for all that you allow. Whether, we assign the value to it in the meaning, whether it's good or bad. But let's just say it's really good. A perfect soulmate, a great partner. But because we're still holding on to these echoes and memories of the old you, you're going to remember where you got hurt before, where you got stung before. Well, this is great, but how long is this one going to last? And then you're in something that's beautiful, that's unfolding for you because you've been asking for it. You've been creating maybe in a lot of other ways, the situation for this to come into your life. But there's a part of you that is gatekeeping it and saying, I don't allow the fullness of it in. I don't trust it because I've been burned before, I've been stung before. And then you're in a situation where you're constantly waiting for the shoe to fall. You're constantly waiting for that person to, say the thing that you've heard a million times. And so that's the resonance that you're putting out, and you're still holding on to these echoes and memories of you, right? And then it does happen. Those words you're waiting for, that other shoe does fall. Why? Because you were in the resonance for it to happen. The whole while in your inner reality, you were building fertile ground for it to happen. For that resonance to take hold once again. And then, guess what happens in that moment? You turn it around and go back into fuck my life, into victim mode, and say, see, I told you so. Are we starting to see how this works? Okay. And when I break it down this way, it makes a lot of sense, I hope. What do we think? And so those old ways of thinking might include like places where you feel like you're unworthy of love. You're holding onto a memory or an echo where you were constantly seeking love, acceptance, and approval from a parent figure that wasn't emotionally available to give it to you. There was nothing wrong with you, but you let that in. You allowed that in, that there was something wrong with you. You created that truth for yourself. And so then it became like an establishing, identifying factor for yourself. And you wonder why you can never attract the right relationship. Are we starting to see? You are what you allow. And that's why I have this resistance against the statement, we are products of our circumstances. No, not the complete truth. We are the result of how we create meaning from life's circumstances. I am what I allow. I am what I allow. Stop doubting your gifts and your talents. Make that inventory. Honor and value yourself. That inventory may include times where you could have gone back to the echo or the memory of you and said, this is me. This is who I am. But you didn't. What are those moments? Make an inventory of those too. Why not? Make an inventory of as many things as you possibly can. Do 20 or 30 things if you can. But having the 3 things, and I will tell you, it sounds like such a simple and kind of silly thing to do. I will tell you this. Once you do it, you'll be so glad you did it. Because you will come up against what you'll call an imperfect moment, which hopefully you won't do anymore. I remember this talk. I remember Kathryn saying, there are no imperfect moments. There's only invitations. There's only opportunities. It may feel shitty in the moment, but this is my gift in the garbage. My gift in the garbage is, where do I get to call up that inner inventory? Because it's right there. It's top of mind. I got it. Let's say, no. In this moment, I get to align with this me I choose to become. I get to align with a new level of what I allow. I only allow things that nourish and cultivate further and support my growth and who I want to become. What do you want to nourish you? You're going to have to become very clear with yourself about the things that are maybe stuck in your inner reality, where you have that line in the sand now. Not only is it keeping stuff out, and not only is it looking at where I might be keeping stuff out, because I have shitty stuff in here. I have crappy stuff in here that doesn't belong in there anymore. It doesn't need to be taking up space within me anymore. I know too much about myself. I know too much now about what I want. I am what I allow. Has this been helpful to you? And to maintain inspiration with this, because when we're really moving into areas of greater fulfillment, greater growth, it's really important to understand that we have to make it bigger than ourselves. So when I'm in those moments of facing perfect now moments that may have resonated with you before as imperfect moments, when I'm in those moments and I'm being invited to choose higher and better, either you're seeing it as an invitation to choose higher and better, or an opportunity to go back to that cocoon, the memory of you, the echo of you. I always choose to see it as, where's my gift in the garbage here? Where is this an invitation for me to choose higher and better? And I always use something or someone, not just myself, as the reason for doing it, because that's where my real inspiration comes from. And for me, it's easy because I have a community of people that in what I share, I try to nourish them. I try to feed them with nourishing thoughts, ideas, help to kind of create a passage to bridge new concepts, way of concretizing new levels of reality that are based in elevated consciousness. That's how I choose to nourish others. And I want whatever nourishes me, whatever I've revealed for myself or helped to uncover, I want to pay that forward. So very much so, my growth and moving into greater levels of growth and fulfillment always has to do with, and I'm always inspired by, how does this serve other people? So in this final wrap up here of this conversation, your real inspiration will come in continuing on this path, not just through feeding and nourishing yourself, encouraging yourself, encouraging, because courage is everything, encouraging yourself to go into greater areas of growth and fulfillment, even though it will be uncomfortable. Growth always is, that's a guarantee. But it is aligned with where you want to go, who you want to become? Then the momentary discomfort is always going to be worth the long-term gain. Always, always, always. And you can bolster that. You bolster that intention with inspiration. And if your inspiration always involves, how does this get to showcase for other people how to do this, how to be this way for themselves? So I know that a couple of you commented in here that you being in this new level of growth for yourself, embodying or inhabiting that, might be a triggering point for others. Okay. That's their imperfect moment. That's where they're not seeing the perfect now and seeing you showcasing yourself in your light, rippling that out from you as like a beacon of inspiration for others. That person is seeing it as an imperfect moment for now. Should that stop you from being in your light? No. Because that imperfect moment for one person might be a trigger, re-traumatizing for them. Again, their problem, their responsibility. All you can do is be you. That is your responsibility. To be the highest and best version of you. We're always moving into and being invited into greater areas of growth and fulfillment in order to do that. To reach even more of our potential. But for that person's imperfect moment, their triggering moment, to someone else, you are their perfect moment. Because they see similarities in you and they say, if she can do it, I can do it. Let that be your inspiration. Think of even one other person when you are making strides, sometimes painful ones, to be the best version of yourself you can possibly be, to grow and fulfill into greater versions of yourself, let one other person, it could be some just random person you have fixed in your mind, some lady who is like you, who is also looking for answers, looking for solutions, that just in you showcasing who you are, inhabiting, embodying who you be, that you are that person's perfect moment. Can you do that? Can you be that? Do you understand that it's bigger than you? It's bigger than me. So we're really talking about unity consciousness. It is about thinking about how our greatest efforts to better ourselves actually help to better other people. And also, unity consciousness can never be achieved outright in the outer world unless we first unite all parts within. And the more we do that, meaning we stop creating fertile ground for inner battle to take place, for us to wage war with ourselves because we want one thing, but we're saying or doing or being another. When we stop creating that fertile ground to be at war and battle with ourselves, unity consciousness within, and we can only ever see unity consciousness outside of us, if it has a firm hold within us first, in our inner reality. Yes? You're so very welcome. I hope that this has really brought new insights and inspiration, some revelation, some aha moments for you. And yes, thank you, Marissa. I appreciate that. I deeply appreciate all of you being here, and thank you. And please feel free to share this video. It will, I'll be sending it out to your email because it will be in a YouTube format. So I'll put this up on my YouTube channel. Please share this. Please share it. It'll be up on my Facebook page. And also that, you know, this is what we go into in practice, where I'm sharing much more and laying a much deeper foundation down for you to be creating these great habits, to, you know, understand that all of life is an adventure and an invitation, and that who you be gets to be reinvented in honor of that, in honor of that flow mode versus the fuck my life. That's what Women Walking the Phoenix Path is all about. It's like a complete do-over. I've had women in here who are just like, I want to burn everything down and start over. Great. This program's for you. Or I recognize there are things in my life that just cannot keep going. I don't know how to stop this pattern. Great. This program is for you. When I start teaching it live again in August of this year, 2023, it is going to be going up to an increased investment. And so there are going to be new modules added, new material, new content added. Right now, it is at a steep savings of more than $1,200. This is the self-study version. You can have access to it for as long as you like in the member vault, and it will pre-enroll you for the live version that we'll be doing at the end of August 2023. So my offer to you is to check out the link that I'm going to send you when I send you the email replay of this. There is a split pay option, or it is $797. For what you're going to get in here, for the knowledge you're going to accumulate and the wisdom, which is applied knowledge, that's what wisdom is, that you're going to have from this program, it is going to change how you look at life. It is going to change your life path. It is going to have you feel like a phoenix, rising from the ashes of what was, and using that as fuel and a foundation to build who you be, what you want to become. It's an incredibly powerful program. If you've enjoyed this talk, you're going to absolutely be guaranteed to love this program. It's powerful, and going to be even more so when I add more content. And so you're automatically pre-enrolled to the live, and you won't have to pay an extra penny for when we go live in August 2023. And the price on this ends this Friday, April 21st. So if you are ready, jump on this opportunity. It is a tremendous opportunity. Thank you all for being here. Much love to you, and I appreciate all of you. Bye-bye.